people jump on here. Pull the radar up. There we go. Okay. So we've got a chance for rain that'll unfold really starting right now and lasting through Thursday morning. This is the current radar loop, the last 3 hours. And the front that we're watching is already into northern B and Live Oak counties, and you can see some additional storm development there. We're not anticipating widespread coverage tonight, and I think the best rain chances tonight are going to be west and north of Corpus Christi. But we're talking about the people that can view us and our airwaves, so that does include B, Live Oak counties, Duval County, all around Freer. There are little showers and thunderstorms dropping some pretty heavy rain. And there was a big thunderstorm south of Falfurrias in northern Brooks County. This thing was dropping some heavy rain. This is more of a sea breeze induced thunderstorm. Doesn't have a lot of movement with it, so it's in the process now of decaying. But there was some pretty heavy rain around the Falfurrias area over the last hour or so from that cell. Up to the north, from Tilden through Three Rivers and then north of Beeville, that's about where that cold front is at right now. And it's really not going to have a ton of forward momentum tonight. It's going to be a sluggish thing. It's not going to be one of these cold fronts that blasts on through here and we get a strong north wind and it gets cool. We're not talking about a scenario like that. This thing is going to be rather sluggish. It's not going to move through completely overnight. So, it's just these early fall cold fronts in South Texas, they tend to do this. They approach the area and then they really start to lose that forward momentum. We don't get a huge dramatic shift in air mass with these cold fronts that are losing steam as they work through the area. But we are going to have some tangible differences in the way it feels outside heading into the weekend. Today it was 98 degrees. Heat index was up around 110, so it was plenty hot. Felt just like the smack dab middle of summer outside today. Lots of heat. That's going to go away tomorrow. So, we've got the looping radar up. There are no strong or severe thunderstorms right now. I mean, I guess there are strong storms. The one approaching Beeville, that's got some giddy up to it, but it's not severe. And for a storm to be severe, it would need 60-mile-per-hour winds and or 1-inch hail or producing a tornado, which we're not seeing anything like that right now. There is a low chance that something could go marginally severe, like 60-mile-per-hour straight line wind is the primary threat with anything that can get going. That's a little more robust, but just looking at the radar the way it is right now, there aren't any storms that are close to my eye to that severe limit. The storm up in B County really, maybe have 20 to 30 mile per hour winds in it. I'm not seeing a ton of wind in that storm. So as this front works southward tonight, however little it does, there will be scattered activity. Really, I think between now and midnight is when it's going to be the most active. I do see a little lull in action during the pre-dawn, like wee hours of the morning Thursday, the hours right after midnight. And then I think we see an uptick heading towards sunrise Thursday and not going away till Thursday afternoon. So this weather impact alert, it's relatively new branding and phrasing for us here at KIII TV. And we're hitting a few thresholds for us to be going in this direction. So, I think it's threefold. One is we're expecting the coverage to be up over 60% at times. And that looks to more so be into Thursday morning. So why don't we just have that red bar for Thursday morning, right? And the reason for that has to do with the low-end severe threat that some of tonight's storms may bring to parts of the area. Even though the coverage doesn't look like it's going to be as numerous as it will be Thursday morning, there is just that hint of a severe possibility that, I felt we should acknowledge in this weather impact alert. And then the third thing is that there's a low-end flood chance. And when I say flood, I don't mean feet of rain. The Weather Service, we saw this happen earlier this week. We had several inches of rain out by the refineries, west of downtown Corpus Christi, up I-37, and it was enough to generate some standing water that was problematic to drive through. So it was standing water. It wasn't rushing water that is going to move vehicles and just like we saw in the hill country over the summer. That's a true flash flood. The flash flood warnings we get here are more for standing water. It's not rushing water. We're in the coastal plain, so there's not a lot of terrain to get that water moving in to tributaries, Sometimes we'll see the Oso Creek fill up a little more, but I'm not thinking we're seeing that much rain here tomorrow. I do think, it's possible a few spots get several inches, but this is not looking like an overly impressive opportunity for rain. So, that's where I'm at with how we talk about this, that weather impact alert branding. This is our in-house modeling now. This is our Futurecast. It's the graph model from IBM. It's not available publicly, but we've got software to have access to it. I'm going to answer this one question. So it's from Grace. Why don't they seed the clouds so we can have rain? That way we won't be in a drought. Well, cloud seeding is definitely a thing. It happens. It's being researched. There's entities in Texas that seed clouds, and one of them, the closest one's out of Pleasanton. They'll go up, they'll put flares out or a substance, silver iodide. They'll inject that into the cloud, and all that's doing is providing more condensation nuclei in that cloud in the hope of it being able to condense more moisture on to that condensation nucleus, right? So that's fine. Go ahead, cloud seed all you want. There's a couple of things. One, you cannot control when, where it's going to rain. We can't do that. You can cloud seed all you want, but humans cannot control when that rain is going to start happening. Two, you've got to have sufficient moisture, which we do right now. It's definitely there. But even when conditions are perfect conditions for cloud seeding, the amount of extra that you can get out of a cloud roughly is 10 to maybe 15%, maybe more than what it's going to do anyway. This is not a thing that's just. It's also possible if you put condensation nuclei into that cloud, maybe it undercuts the rain amount. We don't really know. And if we did and we knew how to do it, this would be happening and we would be able to direct rain where we need it. That's what would happen, right? It would be something that is known. And as of today, to my knowledge, that's what I know about cloud seeding, and that's the way it is. You can go read all their research and see that, and we just can't control it. And we can't control how much it rains either. So that's the cloud seeding topic. So I think we do get scattered rain tonight. I don't think everyone's going to be getting rain. And I think the best chance is really right now through 10, 11 o'clock. Overnight, after midnight, we see a lull. I don't think it stays terribly active after midnight. But heading into the sunrise hours of Thursday morning, our modeling is holding back just a little bit on the placement of this. There's other guidance that shows more coverage on the rain heading into sunrise Thursday. So I'll say just at this time, if I'm going to work or school Thursday in the morning, 7, I come to work, 1 in the afternoon. So I'm not talking to me, I'm talking to you. I'm bringing rain gear. I'm going to have it handy as I head out, even if it's not raining as I walk out the door. I'm going to have that rain gear because I do think that there's a pretty good chance for showers and storms into Thursday morning. You see, our modeling eventually does fill in. Some of this could be pretty heavy rain as this is happening, and I think going toward the noontime hour, there likely will be rain in the region, but into the afternoon, I do think that the rain chances start to fade as that front moves to the south. We're going to start getting into some drier air, and that drier air is going to, lower the humidity content of the atmosphere, and the rain's just going to move to the south where that moisture is and where that front is headed. Tomorrow afternoon, we got 87 for a high. That would be over 10 degrees lower than it was today. And by my definition, that would make this cold front moderate in strength. And this is another topic that gets talked about over and over and over again, especially early on in the season here in South Texas. I'm going to click off this graphic. I'm going to go on a tangent here for a second. But look at Friday morning. Some 60s inland, low 70s in Corpus Christi, and Friday looks amazing. It'll still be warm, low 90s, but the humidity levels are going to be way down. So before I start talking about this rain graphic, the cold front thing, right? The cold fronts, when we're talking about them in a meteorological sense, a cold front is simply a change in air mass from warm to cold. It's that boundary separating those two air masses, and if you're in a location and you go from warm to cold, it's a cold front. Note that there are no temperatures attached to that. It's just the direction of change with the passage of said front. So you could have a day where it's 110 outside, a cold front comes through, and the next afternoon it's 98 degrees. That will have been a cold front because the temperature change went down. You could have a day where it's 40 outside, a cold front comes through, and it's 26 the next afternoon. A lot colder, but it's still a cold front. We do not name weather fronts for the way they make us feel. That would be way, 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 way too subjective. That would be just, where does it end? Where does it end when you get a front and it goes from 95 to 87? Okay, well, that's a hot front. No, that's a mild front. Wait, no, that's a cool front. No, I disagree. It's not. It's a not as hot front. it would never end because everyone wants to feel them differently. We all feel things differently when it comes to weather, and we're all individuals. So from a meteorological perspective, when someone is talking about a cold front, it means that an air mass change is happening at a location, and that change is bringing temperatures down. By how much, what temperature, that's all in the details of talking about the cold front. So that's why we say cold front. I know that other meteorologists will use cool front from time to time, and whatever, to each their own. My response to that, though, is if you answered cool front on a test, you would get it wrong in a meteorology examination. So, because there isn't technically such a thing as a cool front. It's an arbitrary thing, because when is it cold? When does cool front turn to cold front? We'll leave it there. So the rain chances on tonight, tomorrow morning, I think they're going to be best Thursday morning. And the totals, it looks like there's a swath roughly around Highway 59. And that extends well north and south of that roadway. But 1 to 2 inches of rain in places like Freer, George West, Beeville, Mathis, maybe up toward Victoria. They just got some pretty big downpours this afternoon. I think that's going to be the stripe of where the highest totals are found. 1/2 inch to 1 inch in Corpus Christi, a little less than that south of Baffin Bay. And with every rain chance, there is a boom or bust characteristic to the forecast, right? It's not like every location is going to fall exactly within those ranges. And I like to do the ranges like that, where it's more broad and it's our forecast. When you just throw out a model, it's so specific. Like Corpus Christi is going to get 0.87, but Robstown's going to get 1.36. We're just not that good. We're not good enough to be able to pinpoint down to the 1/10 of an inch or 100th of an inch how much rain a location's going to get, and those locations are within like 5 miles of one another. We're just not there. So I try to generalize the totals, and I think this boom bust thing that we've been doing here, it just gives some extra context. And what I mean by that is when we go back to this map, right? Let's say the boom is 3 inches. It's possible that like Falfurrias, for example, tonight got some pretty good rain. They could end up with over 3 inches of rain, and that wouldn't be within the range depicted on this map, but it is within the range of this boom bust thing, right? So I'm acknowledging that there could be a few spots that get more rain than advertised on that forecast. And the same is true for the opposite way. There could be places that get less than 1/10 of an inch of rain through Thursday morning, and that's just the way it goes. That's the way weather is. It doesn't follow hard and fast rules, everywhere. It just doesn't. So that's our best prediction about what's going to happen. This map is completely hand-drawn. I drew it. I put the numbers on there. I look at lots of different forecast models, and this, I think, is a good idea of what to expect. So just pulling the curtain back a little bit on the process here when we have graphics like that. Tropics, do want to touch on this briefly because this is going to get a lot of attention over the weekend, early next week. Gabrielle gone, at least from the continental U.S., but Umberto formed today. It's a tropical storm. And then we've got Invest 94L, which has a high likelihood of developing in the coming days. So how do these two interact with one another? What's going on in the Western Atlantic? Before we start, there are no threats to Texas. I'm just doing this but it's a hot topic. It's something that's going to be watched by everybody. So this Bermuda high is going to move to the island of Bermuda, basically. That's where it gets its namesake. And you see the spaghetti plot from Humberto and Invest 94L. Both of these systems are going to want to pull to the north and west. There will be a little upper level disturbance over the southeastern U.S. that may have a play on Invest 94L. But the confidence here in terms of the track of how these two move really beyond the weekend, this goes out to Monday at 11, very low confidence in that. I'm confident that we don't have a problem in Texas from this, but you know, if I'm a meteorologist on the southeastern Atlantic coast, you know, you've got your hands full with this setup. So it'll be interesting to watch from afar to see how this plays out, but it's a very difficult forecast, especially heading into next week with two systems in play. There could be some Fujiwara action. One of them could ingest the other one. You know, maybe they stay separate. They stay far enough apart to where they don't really alter one another. But that's going to be something to watch early next week. For us now, we're talking about this cold front moving through overnight and into Thursday. That front is going to be out in the Gulf next week. And, you know, I've just thought this on Saturday this weekend. It's going to be worth watching that boundary. Just sometimes tropical spin-ups can happen along these boundaries. So this time of year with a boundary resting in the Gulf for several days, even though there's nothing tangible there right now, the Hurricane Center's not flagging anything, I will be watching this pretty closely, you know, over the weekend and next week. Hopefully nothing comes of it, but it's a known thing that when you've got stationary boundaries in the Gulf this time of year, sometimes they can spawn spin-ups, tropically speaking. Just some climatology from the perspective of Texas and the tropics. Going back to 1900, there have only been 3 hurricanes to make landfall in Texas in October. The latest of which was on the 16th of October, and it was in 1912, a hurricane moving into Baffin Bay, curling up around the west side of Corpus Christi. That's the latest hurricane landfall in Texas. There was another one in 1949, earlier in October, and then 1989, Jerry, I believe it was a Cat 1 near Galveston, moved into that part of the state. So that'll just be something that I'm looking at next week. This is the 7-day. You know, tomorrow morning, pretty good chance for some rain, showers and storms in play. Some of it could be heavy. The Blitz, Friday night Blitz, I think this is the nicest Friday of football games to date in the Coastal Bend. I think it's going to feel the nicest out there compared to the last several weeks. And the weekend is looking nice. I think this is the nicest weekend that we have seen really since prior to June. This weekend is looking like it's going to be nice. It's not going to be cold. It won't be even cool, but the humidity is going to be down a little bit, and that edge coming off the humidity makes all the difference. So that's it. I'm going to leave it there. Maybe do one more check on the radar. I'm going to have to cycle back on the graphics. See what we've got going on. Yeah, and Beeville, you're about to get popped with a little storm. So go back over here. There it is. There's the storm wanted to reference moving into Beeville. And, you know, that storm right now we're looking at, it's moving to the south. Funny, Freddie Sanchez. Should I start Kyler Murray or CJ Stroud this week? Freddie, partner, I'm 0-3 in fantasy this year. Probably not the best person to ask. I lost by 0.3 points this past week, and I'm still upset about it. And I hear some smirks from the newsroom, probably people that have already beat Holt's Bolts already. I'm playing the Whippersnappers this week. Oh, Ryan Hopper says start Murray over Stroud. Okay, there you go. So this storm coming into Beeville, it's got heavy rain. It's got lightning in it. The wind is not terribly strong, at least the way it looks on radar. There may be some 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts in it, but that storm moving into Beeville does not look terribly strong. There's another one just to the east of Freer. We'll just zoom out so we can see the motion of these. And that looks like it's going to stay to the south of Freer at its current movement. It's barely clipping Freer. So it's moving south, and it's right on the edge there in Freer. So getting a little bit of rain there. Big storm out in McMullen County, south of Tilden. The storm that was near Falfurrias is now south and dwindling, so that one not as problematic anymore the way it once was. And then there's additional activity up to the north of this front, and it's going to be scattered around between now and roughly, 10, 11, midnight. I do think we've got some storms approaching from the north. Again, we talked about this earlier, thinking that tonight a lot of this stays west and north of Corpus Christi, with Corpus Christi getting a better chance into Thursday morning. So I'll go back to the 7-day, and we'll leave it there. I'm going to go back over to the Weather Center and just try to, organize thoughts. And if something pops up that needs to be more attention paid to it, we'll certainly jump back on this. Freddie says, thank you, Ryan.
No problem.
Ryan says, no problem, gave you a thumbs up. We need to do a fantasy football show.
Why not?
We need to do a fantasy football show. Me, Chris, and Ryan. Let's go. We're all playing. Some of us are losing, some of us are winning.
Some of us are in between.
I don't think I've ever won the league. We have a 14-team league here at Channel 3, and it's the amount of players on the waiver wire, there aren't that many. I have CeeDee Lamb, so I'm really hurting right now. Enough about that. Again, 7-day outlook. After tomorrow morning, the rain chances really start to go down, and we've got some weather pleasantries heading into the weekend. So if something pops up, we'll check back in. If not, we'll see you at 10. And be sure to watch First Edition tomorrow morning. Carly will be working. And Thursday morning looks to be, in my opinion, more active than it will be tonight. So y'all stay safe. Keep up with the forecast, and we'll see y'all when we see you.